All right, Dr. Anna Maria Temple, thank you so much for being on the Urban Pharmacy podcast. I am thrilled to have you on and honestly can't wait to hear all of your insights on holistic health for kiddos and maybe adults too. We'll see where the conversation goes.
So excited to be here. Yes, we totally need to discuss this, especially in the days that we are living in.
Indeed, we do. So, all right, let's just get right in. I have fielded so many questions from friends and people that I've just had in conversations with over the years. There are a lot of questions that seem to be pretty redundant. So, I'll start. Well, actually, let me ask you first before we even get into the questions. I want to know, tell me about you. Tell me about how you got into the holistic health world and was this during or after your studies to become a doctor? And what was it that helped you decide to go down the more Eastern or root cause or preventative path?
Yeah, I know. I am a traditionally trained doctor. I studied regular, old-fashioned West medicine, trained in pediatrics. And then 5 years into my medical career, at that time I had 3 kids and they were 2, 4, and 6. And lo and behold, I turned around one day and realized that all my kids were so sick and they were on piles of chronic medication. My daughter at the age of 6 had asthma, eczema, seasonal allergies, recurrent ear infection, recurrent croup, constipation. My youngest son had seasonal allergies that were so horrible that he couldn't even go outside during an Easter egg hunt because his eyes would swell shut, tears would be streaming down his face, and he would be on the ground writhing and scratching himself till bleeding. He was on 5 allergy medicines at that time. My middle child had kind of snot, the kind of boogers that, like if you see that child walking down the street, you're like, what kind of mother allows that child to walk down the street? There were not enough tissues in Costco, folks, to take care of that nightmare. And incidentally, he also had ADHD. He was only 4. And while they were all on antibiotics, again, I took them to their pediatrician and I said, why are my children so sick? Because this can't be normal. And the replies I got was, well, your daughter, she has chronic asthma, but if she takes chronic inhaled daily steroids, her asthma will be under control. And you apply daily topical steroids and her eczema will be under control. And she'll take daily allergy medicines, which will keep her eczema and asthma under control. And then she'll eventually outgrow her ear infections and croup infections because most kids will outgrow this. And as for the little tiny one, and I quote, we've run out of medications. There are no more medications we can give him. The only next option is allergy shots. Again, he was 2 years old. And for my son, they were like, well, his snot, obviously he has chronic sinus infections, he needs antibiotics. And as for the ADHD, I don't even know what they said because I stopped paying attention at that point. And my doctor self was like, this can't be right. Wait, so my children are going to be on chronic medicines for the rest of their lives? Like that is their story? And then my mama's self came alive and was like, heck no, under no circumstances will this happen. And even though my doctor self didn't know what to do, my mama's self was like, I am a warrior mother and we're going to figure this out one way or another in some shape or form. And it was a week later, I went to my children's school. It was an elementary school talk on nutrition. And it was that day that my mindset had changed and the fog lifted and I was able to see the root cause of my kids' issue. All the nutritionist talked about was sugar. And I went home that night after work, 7:30 p.m., walked into that pantry, and to the horror of my children and the horror of my husband, I started chucking the Lucky Charms, the Pop-Tarts, the Goldfish, the chicken nuggets, the orange crackers with peanut butter, because that's protein, chocolate milk from their lunch, because that's calcium, the juice boxes, you name a garbage food, we were eating it. But I felt that I was feeding my kids nutritious food because they had a fruit in their lunch and a vegetable at dinner. And I was like, yeah, we're doing good. And I didn't realize how poorly we were actually doing until I really started looking at our food different eye. Unfortunately, that's when my era of isolation began, because I started fighting with my husband about food over the next 5 years, because he's like, I don't understand. I ate those same foods when I grew up and I'm fine. What does food have to do with anything? My friends were like, you have lost your mind. And my family, crossed me off the wheel because they were like, you have lost it. And then my medical partners were like, what the heck are you doing? This is, where's the medical evidence? And I gotta tell you, I'm like, it was before the Google search engine was where it is today. It was 14 years ago. And, I couldn't tell you why, but I was like, it can't be the wrong answer to bring more fruits and vegetables into my children's lives and get rid of processed foods. And then over the next 5 years, my children stopped needing antibiotics. They stopped needing oral steroids, inhaled steroids, topical steroids. Ear infections went away. The recurrent croup went away. The asthma went away. Anyway, over 5 years, we got rid of medication, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing one step at a time. And then in 2016, my husband and I were burned out of traditional medicine, and we quit our jobs and we moved to New Zealand without health insurance, with no doctors, no medications. And my children thrived and climbed the highest mountains and bungee jumped off the tallest bridges without even so much as a Tylenol in their system, because that is what it is like to come back from chronic disease. And so when I practiced medicine in New Zealand, I did malpractice as a worry. There's no malpractice in New Zealand. There's no Google reviews. There's no patient satisfaction scores. And I was able to treat my patients. I would walk in and I'll say, for your chronic headaches, there is no medicine I can give you. We have to do lifestyle modifications. And some people push back, some people jumped on, but I will tell you, none of my patients got better without medication. So when I came back to the States, I was like, I am doing this differently. And, I've had my practice now for 3 years, treated thousands of patients, and people have come off medications that no one said that they could come off. We've treated illnesses that people said, physicians said the message was that this is just a children's story, because it does not have to be your story. So I've been able to go beyond medication. Sometimes we need medications, and that's the beauty about integrative medicine. But the bottom line is the food and our lifestyle are really at the core of our wellness and are the answer to chronic disease.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We're done with the episode, folks. We're done. There we go. All right. There it is. Okay. Well, that's hilarious. The story's not hilarious. The story is inspiring, incredible, hopefully super eye-opening for people, and a source of inspiration to make a change today, because there's no better time than today to make a change. And it's interesting, though, what is funny is that the very end of my question list that I have here for you is sugar. So I didn't know about that story with your kids, and we don't need to ask that question anymore. This is super interesting because I also grew up on that food. I grew up on the push-ups. I grew up on the, oh my gosh, Hi-C coolers, on the Ecto coolers, on the Pop-Tarts. I ate toaster strudels by the box, food coloring galore, blow pops. I mean, seriously, you name it, I was eating it. And I now have chronic hypothyroid or acute hypothyroidism. I'm still on this journey. I've been on this journey for over a decade, but now it's all about the industry or environmental chemicals and the water that I'm drinking and all of the things. And what I want to just, before we dig into all these questions, is that, guys, as you are transitioning, one thing to remember is that food has a massive impact, because we're doing that. We're voting with our fork like 3 to 5 times a day. And, our body is our temple and we have to take care of it. So food is probably one of those easier things that we can address. And so Anna Maria, you were the one that you went cold turkey. You basically said, screw this. I'm taking all of this processed foods out of my family's life. For the people that can't do that, they're not yet there, what do you think is the first thing to get rid of when it comes to pantry foods?
You cannot do it all in one go. I mean, the story's dramatic explanation. but that is dramatized to just make my point. The way it actually went down is I went after each product. I, made a big stink in the pantry about all the products, but the reality is, which is actually how I outline it in my book, is that I go through what we did over each month or each year. So, I was like, the Cheez-Its are a problem. So I went after the Cheez-Its and changed them out. Then I was after the Ritz crackers and changed those out. Then it was like the chicken. It was one thing at a time. It was not all things at the same time. It is without the proper support of a team, it is not doable on your own. Not because you're a bad person, not because you're not a good mom or a good dad, because the culture is suffocating and the pressure from the outside is so intense. And when you do one step at a time, it's easier, it's accepted easier. So basically, I call it Jedi mind tricks. And so I would do it so my people wouldn't really, so then instead of like, oh, we're going to actually chuck the Lucky Charms, what I did was like, oh, we're going to make smoothies every day. My first smoothie was, and I kid you not, ice cream, whole milk, and strawberries. Because I was like, I'm going to get a fruit into these people. And the people drank the smoothie, and then they had less Lucky Charms. And then over time, I removed the ice cream, replaced it with yogurt. And then over time, I removed the vanilla yogurt and replaced it with regular yogurt, but added local honey. Then I added a spinach leaf. Not too many, because it couldn't be a green smoothie because the people would revolve. It had to be a pink smoothie. But over time, our smoothies journey, because we're all on a journey and the journey never ends. There's no finish line. There's no, I've made it. So it's a journey. And, but our smoothie the smoothie we have today is very different than the smoothie that we had in the beginning, but you have to give yourself a break. And the way I realize I'm doing ice cream for breakfast, but I'm getting the buy-in for a fruit. I got the buy-in, then slowly I was able to adjust the taste buds. And then over time, the people didn't even ask for the cereal anymore. It would sit and rot in our pantry, and then I would just stop buying it. So it was a gradual enough transition. Sometimes if your children are really sick, we go hardcore. And again, but that's a whole team approach. But one step at a time, and I'll take it an even step further. Like even more root cause mindset. If you feel that food is really not that big of a deal and your kids are not that sick or that not important, what we're saying here may sound like a bunch of hooey, because it did. That's what it sounded to me long ago. That was sounded to my husband well into our journey. And that's okay. There's no shaming and no blaming. You're just not at that point. When you get to the point and you change your mindset and you're like, I will get rid of sugar in my house. There's one thing I've learned: you cannot stop a mama warrior. Once a mama gets an idea in her head and she's like, this is the right thing, man, you don't stand in her way. You just get out of the way, because she's coming. And once you decide that garbage food no longer has a place in your pantry, you will get it done. It will be slow or maybe fast. It doesn't matter. No one cares. You just have to be better today than you were yesterday. And you do what will make you successful. Don't go after the hard stuff. Go after the easy stuff. Juice from juice boxes and lunches. Great. Well, one way to do it is, instead of every day you have a juice in the lunchbox, every other day. Then it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then it's once a week. Then it's once a month. And then it's gone. In that transition, what happens is the taste buds are also coming along for the ride, because we change our taste buds. A third of our taste buds die every 30 days. So in 90 days, you have all new taste buds. So if you slowly wean the juice and just slowly replace it with water, the taste buds are going to be trained to like less juice and more water. But it's a training process, because no one gets up from the couch and runs a marathon. You have to practice. And the same thing goes for our taste buds. So I'll say mindset first and a small step next. And the third thing that you can start doing right away is in the pantry. When you look at ingredients, not at the front of the box, never the front. The front of the box is just marketing, folks. No, never believe the front. I don't care if it says whole grain. I don't care if it says 1 serving of fruits and vegetables. Whatever it says, ignore it, turn it over, look at the ingredients.
It's called neutral washing, guys. It's called neutral washing.
Oh, I don't know that term. What's neutral washing?
Do you like that?
I like that.
Instead of greenwashing with like our cleaning products and our beauty products, it's neutral washing. It's telling you, I can't remember. I don't know if I'm not going to coin it for Furman, Dr. Furman, but I don't know. Maybe it was him. Neutral washing.
Neutral. There we go. So they fool you, right? And they got to look at the back. And if you can't read an ingredient and you have to look it on Google, that is not a food. That is garbage. You're going to put that back. So if you can't read it, you don't eat it. And generally, the easiest thing is your processed food should have 5 or less ingredients, because it's after the first 5 ingredients that the garbage really shows up. The preservatives, the food coloring, it's always down the list. So if you could keep it to 5 or less ingredients in a packaged food, you're already there. And if you can't read it, don't eat it. So those would be like takeaways that we can just start implementing today.
Love it. Love it. I teach people about the 5 ingredient thing too, but it does get a little tricky when you're looking at like a bag of kale chips that are like carrots and flax seeds and tahini and, and then you get past 5 and it's like red bell peppers. And I'm like, well, come on, let's use our common sense, right? Like if it's a whole plant food, right, we're good to go. So I love that. Okay, let's get into problems that we're seeing with children on a daily basis. And I want to know what you have in terms of tips for prevention or treatment in a more natural, holistic way. So first off, let's start with, can we put these together? Allergies and ear infections, can we put them together?
Oh, of course we can.
Yeah.
We can put allergies, ear infections, asthma, constipation, ADHD, anxiety, depression, chronic abdominal pain. Yes, we can put them all together. And the reason we can put them all together is because in the traditional Western medicine, when you have ear infections, you go to the otologist. When you have allergies, you go to the allergist. When you have eczema, you go to dermatologist, right? So lungs, pulmonologist, all these ists, a lot of ists. Very specialized people in one organ. However, when we look at the body as one organ, we miss the rest of the picture. A holistic doctor, which is what I am, is oftentimes that people confuse it. They're like, you don't use medicine. I'm like, no. Holistic means the whole person. So when you come in with allergies or with ear infections or asthma or ADHD, what is going on with the whole child? Because the problem is not just in the ears. The problem is not just in your nose and it's not just in your lungs. It's in your whole body. Your body doesn't have individual parts that don't talk to the other parts. So there is a communication error between all the parts. So when it comes to seasonal, all these things, the common theme to all of them is actually inflammation, which I discuss as fire. And the fire starts from your gut. Fun fact, in Chinese medicine, 5,000 years ago, they said that if your gut is not in line or in check, the rest of you will suffer. And Western medicine said, what? Totally not, whatever. That doesn't make any sense. And then the NIH, the National Institute of Health, identified that for every 1 human cell, we are 10 bacteria cells. So we're only 10% human, actually. And in our guts, 3 pounds of our adult body weight is because of bacteria that live in our gut that control our insulin, cholesterol, estrogen, progesterone, serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone, dopamine, which is a focus hormone, immune system, which is responsible for allergies and eczema and asthma. So that's why I can put them all together, because they all start in the gut and it all relates to inflammation, which is fire. So these kids are having, you name an issue, I will bring it down to the fire in their belly. And when we give them inhaled steroid or Zyrtec or allergy medicines or antibiotics for ear infections, all we're doing is we're treating the smoke and no one is putting out the fire. How does the fire happen? The fire begins with food, and again, I'm sure that on your listeners, we have a variety from people that are still eating Pop-Tarts and torture strudels. No shame and no blame. That's what you know. And then we have the other folks that are like, oh, we eat whole foods, and how could this happen? Not all foods are a good fit for every human. Dairy is not a good fit for every human. Gluten is not. Does that mean that everyone is off dairy? No. Does it mean that everyone is off gluten? No. But if you're pouring out snot and you have snot in your face and you have snot in your ears, because that's what ear infections are, and you're constantly coughing and you're dealing with asthma, obviously processed foods are number 1 for anyone. Insert an illness, processed foods are number 1 cause. We got to remove those. Second, for all illnesses, whatever the name, sugar is our next culprit. I can't tell you how many folks are like, we've removed dairy. And I'm like, right, but what about sugar? Oh, well, that one is hard. It's like, no, you can't skip. You have to go in order. So sugar is got to go on the chopping block. And again, we're real here. It's not going to be zero added sugar. That's almost like impossible, really. But it is going to be reducing it to less than 24 grams a day if possible. And then we're going to go after dairy. And dairy, and again, dairy in itself is not the problem. The overconsumption of dairy. I mean, honestly, at 1 year old, we tell all parents, your child needs to drink between 16 and 24 ounces of cow milk. Really?
This is part of my question. This is
and
one of my
then
questions.
Cheese.
Yeah.
And then cheese. And then we're like, why are they so constipated? And why are they so full of snot? You know? And, you know, I have people with constipation that come in and they're like, you know, we're doing fiber and water. I was like, you're gonna have to get rid of cheese. And they're like, what? What kind of weird doctor are you? And I was like, listen, cheese is the most constipating food on the face of the planet. You cannot out supplement a diet, the body. And just because cheese works for one sibling does not mean that cheese works for the next kid. Very frustrating. Medicine is very individualized, but unfortunately we've given this impression that give me the one thing that works for everybody. There is not one thing that works for, well, sunshine, I mean, but there's not one treatment thing that specifically works for everybody. So when it comes to allergies and ear infections, those are my things: processed foods, sugar, and then we're going to go to dairy.
Okay, got it. Okay, so you kind of bunched in, well, that's, you know, that's root cause. That's root cause. Now that for ear infection, I can see. Now eczema I totally had it. I had pretty sure I had allergies. Definitely was diagnosed with ADHD, got addicted to Adderall. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I had eczema, asthma, and ADHD kind of all at once. Now, the eczema is kind of, I feel like where it all started. I started getting like hives and eczema. Now we're going to go, is it the same root cause, you know, like treatment? Would you tackle eczema the same way? But then also for people who have children that are just suffering terribly from eczema right now, what can we do in addition to what you're going to say to treat the root? Like,
right.
Can we tandemly?
Eczema, I love eczema. I don't know that people have eczema, but I love eczema because you can see it. Allergies you don't see, so they're bothersome, but not as bad as eczema. When you see your child bleed as a mom, you cannot go on with your day. Your child has ADHD, yeah, they're annoying. And listen, my child had ADHD, so I can totally say it. They're annoying, and you're like, okay, but you can move on. Your child bleeding from eczema, you don't go past go as a mom, or dad, doesn't matter, parent, grandparent, it's awful. And eczema but I love it because the body pretty much manifests on the skin. I have an issue. Hi, I'm raising my hand. Please pay attention to me. There's an issue. And eczema is not a skin issue, is a gut issue, is fire within the belly. We often look at eczema as a skin issue, so we put steroids on it, and then we go to the allergist and dermatologist, and they're not very helpful a lot of the times because they'll identify one food. They're like, that's the food, because allergy testing is not accurate. It doesn't matter if you go to your allergist. It doesn't matter if you do food sensitivity tests. It does not matter. Food allergy sensitivity test is not the most accurate. Can be helpful if it's positive. If it's negative, it's not helpful. The gold standard for food elimination and figuring out if it's an issue is you remove the food, the skin gets better, you eat the food, the skin flares up, voila, 100% accuracy that for you and your body, that food is not the right fit. And for some people, it is dairy or gluten. For some people, it be tomatoes or citric foods. You know, a very sneaky food that causes a lot of issues in kids is those pouches. The pouches, the fruit and veggie pouches, what is the ingredient there? Citric acid. What is that? Lemon. That is citrus. And we know that I have kids in my clinic that had to wean off 12 pouches a day. I mean, yeah. So now again, the mom's like, I'm doing fruits and veggies. You said fruits and veggies.
Totally.
So I'm giving fruits and veggies. And I'm like, it's in a pouch with citric acid. And now I have kids that have vomited from those pouches because the acid was so horrible. So now they're diagnosed with reflux, and everybody's like, you're eating fruits and vegetables, and I've removed dairy, so that shouldn't be a problem, right? I have eczema. I've removed dairy, like you said, or gluten. And I'm like, the pouches and the citric acid can be a thing. The bottom line is it's foods that you eat every single day over and over and over again is what starts to irritate the system. So in some people, they're like, hey, listen, I've been to your eczema masterclass, I'm in your eczema online class, and I've removed the dairy and the gluten, but we need some more help, whatever. And then we do a food test, and almonds are the problem because they've removed dairy and gluten. So now they're doing almond milk, almond crackers, almond butter, almond muffins, almond, and I was like, now the body got oversaturated by the almonds and the system is not happy with oversaturation. But in eczema, it is a very delicate thing. A lot of people are like, yes, we'll remove sugar, we'll remove dairy, we'll remove gluten, we'll remove eggs, we'll remove nuts. And I was like, hold up, people, hold up. We have to replace all that food with good food. You just can't remove food from a child's diet. They'll become nutritionally deficient. You need to have the right support to know what foods to put back in. And then we have to repair the gut for any of these things, allergies, asthma, eczema, anxiety, insert cause. You remove the food, you replace it with amazing food, and then you have to repair the gut because that's where the issue is. And repair doesn't just happen because you removed it. You have to do specific supplements and a specific gut healing protocol, if you will, to heal the gut. And then we reintroduce the food back. The goal of any of these plans is not that the foods are just never going to have gluten, dairy, eggs, nuts, soy, corn, shellfish, whatever. It is, they are not having it right now. And when we heal the gut, we bring them back in and we're going to learn how to rotate them. And therefore, we're not going to saturate the body, because when you do a food reintroduction, you don't start eating eggs every day, 3 times a day. You're like, oh, eggs are not a problem anymore. Wonderful. Excellent. We'll have them a couple of times a week. And in between that, we're going to use these other foods that we've learned about that we're going to rotate, because all of us fall into food ruts, whether you're whole foods, vegan, keto, garbage foods. It doesn't matter. You're in a rut. You buy the same thing over and over again, because I will say that if you go look at your grocery list, it looks pretty similar to the grocery list from last week, which is why Instacart is so amazing, because you just go buy again and it repopulates your whole
Totally. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's when you know in your food rut, when you can repopulate your list over and over and over again without having a second thought, you're like, we have a problem, folks.
Yeah. Your gut microbiome isn't getting that diversity that helps boost the immune system. So gosh, this is just like a huge whole picture thing. So, all right, let's beat up processed foods here. I want to know about food colorings. I know that currently right now you're tackling that subject. So food colorings and ADHD, do you think there's a link there? And then what are food colorings doing to the body, especially for like kids and their brain and their gut? Like, what are you finding?
Food coloring is not a nutritious substance, just like it is not needed in food. The reason food is for marketing purposes. Example, and this will horrify people, we know about Skittles and Push Pops and M&Ms, right? We're all like, oh, we know food coloring. All right. Yeah, oranges, like the actual fruit. The oranges, some oranges are coming out of California, are injected with orange food coloring in order to make them look more orangey, because we want more orangey oranges. We don't tolerate light oranges. That is insanity. This is what we're doing to the food supply. So food coloring is not necessary. Food coloring has not been tested in children to see if it's actually okay to use. It was put into the food source before the 90s, and then it was grandfathered in like, it looks safe, therefore we should make rainbow pancakes as for children. And all the parents are like, yay, rainbow pancakes, that's fun. I'm so fun. I am a fun parent. Listen, I was a fun parent too, because I did toaster strudels for breakfast, went and did icing on them and wrote my kids' names on it. I was like, I'm such a great mother because I'm having them have a hot breakfast. Me, I didn't know, but I thought it was amazing. And I gave them all food coloring. Anyway, tremendous effect on eczema, seasonal allergies, ADHD, hives, people that have recurrent hives, Gastritis. How many children are on anti-reflux medications? And this is triggered by food coloring, but it's subtle. The problem we have is that we only have a very small fraction of kids who are very sensitive. So they will get like a dose of Tylenol, or they'll get one Easter candy and they lose their mind, or their eczema flares up, or they vomit. And so the parent is like, oh my gosh, they're so sensitive to food coloring. What is wrong with that one? And I'm always like, no. That one is awesome, because his body is rejecting it, and it's telling us right away that food coloring is a problem. It's the 99% of the other people that you don't see an immediate reaction, that you're like, they're fine. Lucky Charms, oh, it's good, it's fine. It's good to eat Lucky Charms before you go to school. It's no problem. My kids don't have an issue, because they're not vomiting right after they have the cereal. Our human body, taste buds, are evolution-wise, we didn't have these foods, right? Long ago, you went into the forest and had to forage for berries and mushrooms and whatever. When something was really bitter, you spit it out and you're like, I can't eat it because I'm going to be poisoned. When a mushroom is really bright orange, you're like, I can't eat it. That's going to be poisonous. Food industry has done the following. Doritos, bright orange. We're like, oh, it's so amazing, and makes your mouth water because they're delicious, but they're bright orange. So our body's like, oh, bright orange is good. No. And the bitterness in Doritos has been masked with sugar. So we're tricking the taste buds. So we're supposed to have a protective mechanism. Bright, really bright stuff, we puke. Really bitter stuff, we vomit, or we just kick out of us, and we don't. So in kids that are super sensitive, in quotation marks, super sensitive to food coloring, they're my favorite, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're the canary in the mine. It is the 99% of other people that don't show immediate reactions to food coloring that give us the impression that they're fine. Why can't my kid have Lucky Charms? I'm beating up on Lucky Charms. Fruit Loops. Why can't they have Fruit Loops? Because they are fine. They don't have any health issues. They don't have any health issues now, but they will, my friends, because 1 in 3 children suffer from a chronic disease right now, and we're heading towards 100% of our children having a chronic disease. And chronic disease in adulthood begins in childhood. So you may say, I was fine as a child. Why am I so sick as an adult? It begins in childhood. Sick adults come from quote unquote healthy children.
Oh my gosh. And 1 in 10 kids are getting enough fruits and vegetables. I mean, this is ridiculous. And you mentioned earlier, it's the culture. We have been so molded to believe that these foods are even somewhat normal. They are not food. They are not food. They are chemical concoctions that are created to get us addicted. And it's just horrible. And it just makes me so sad that all of these kids are having so many issues. And we are led to believe that what we're being fed is okay. It's just heartbreaking. Okay. So, all right, Dr. Anna Maria, I need to get serious here. I want to ask you about, all right, antibiotics. What are the antibiotics doing? Because this is like part of the whole picture. I took way too many and my gut was destroyed and everything just got worse because, so what are your thoughts on antibiotics? Like, when is the last resort? What can we do? What are they doing to us first? Tell us that. What are they doing to our children's immune systems? And then what would be like your indicator for it being a very last resort that we need an antibiotic?
Sure. So antibiotics, if we have I like metaphors. If we think in our head, I want you to think in our gut is supposed to be like the Amazon rainforest on steroids. It's supposed to have beautiful trees and luscious undergrowth and, middle of the flowers and the most amazing biodiversity you can think of. I want you to picture the Amazon rainforest. When you take 1 round of antibiotics, it burns 1/3 of that Amazon forest. And when the burning happens, what is left behind, you don't regrow the good stuff necessarily. Generally, weeds come in. And the weeds are like Candida, E. coli, Klebsiella, Clostridia, all these like these bug bacteria that cause us harm. And they take over the spots where the burning happens. It's kind of like a beautiful lawn. You know, we have a beautiful lawn and then there's like burning that happens in the middle of the lawn. It doesn't sit as an open patch. You get dandelions, you get crabgrass. It's so annoying, right? Same thing in our guts. Anyway, and with each round of an antibiotic, you burn a third of the rainforest, another third, whatever's left over. And in some people, depends because each human is individual, some people can recover easily. And in some people, they never recover from that one round of antibiotics for the rest of their lives. That is so scary. Now, a lot of people are like, yeah. So I'm trying not to get antibiotics from my doctor. Great. Number one place where we get our antibiotic exposure is from meat. Mm-hmm. It's not from your doctor. It's from meat. The meat industry feeds the cattle. So the standard, not the grass-fed. So the standard meat industry, the cows, if you guys haven't watched Food Inc., go get it now ASAP on Netflix. I don't know what it is, probably Netflix. I have it on a DVD. Anyway, so you watch the cattle sit in this pens, and they sit in their feces and they poop there and they eat there and they hang out there. So they get infections in their udders. And when they get infections from the poop that they sit in, they get treated with antibiotics. But not only that, antibiotics are used as growth instigators in cattle. And they're giving animals antibiotics to make them grow faster, to go to the slaughterhouse faster. So you've got to know where your meat's coming from. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. I'm like, I know, we will pay $300 for a pair of awesome shoes and some Jordans that we wear maybe a couple of times, but something that we put in our body every single day, we're like, that's where we should save some money.
I know. It's
so
crazy.
And for the meat, if it's you're right, if it's expensive, you shouldn't be eating meat every day anyway. I am not fully plant-based and I try to reduce my meat consumption. So I'm not speaking to you as a vegan. I'm just saying we eat too much meat. And when plants are cheaper than meat, beans and lentils are satisfying and cheaper than meat. So if meat is an issue, use it as a treat. And then the other place that people are going to throw tomatoes at us is going to be our water supply.
Dr. Anna Maria, before you even get to the water, I mean, you're right though, with guys, there's a hierarchy of food and we have to, of course, most of the guests here on this podcast are plant-based and that's totally fine. But look, you don't have to be 100% plant-based. And if you are going to choose to eat meat, you got to find the right source because you're just poisoning, you're just literally putting poison in your body, right? And then your body becomes the garbage can and that's not good. So it's worth it if you are not going to get rid of meat. There's a hierarchy. It's worth your money. Listen, you're going to be putting small or large amounts of money into a good quality like source versus an antibiotic-filled animal. And you're going to be thriving a lot longer than if you had been eating these factory farmed products. So very much you need to know that. It's just super important. Okay. All right. Back to water. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but I'm glad that we're addressing that because a lot of times we're looking in the wrong direction. We know there's a problem, but we're looking somewhere else instead of where the big problem is. And again, we're like, okay, well, because it's, again, food is hard to change culturally, family, habits. Taste, but it is so difficult. But so I'm glad that we're talking about it. So we focus where the issue is. And then the second thing is water. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? Because I have my water tested. They don't test for antibiotic levels. Yeah. I don't know of a water company that's like, oh yeah, well, arsenic but we also tested to see how much antibiotics actually are in your water and how much estrogen is in your water because people flush their medicines down the toilet and people take ridiculous amount of vitamins that are not needed, amount of antibiotics and medications. And guess what? You poop them out. And where does the poop go? In the sewer system. What happens with the sewer? They clean it and make water out of it. Now we're all disgusted, but they don't test that in the water. And so and they use chlorine to try to purify the water. I don't know if you've ever turned your faucet on and you're like, why does my water smell like pool water? Yeah. That's what they're trying to do in order to kill the nasty stuff. It doesn't kill antibiotics. It doesn't kill estrogen. It doesn't kill the other stuff. So it is water. And then we're going to go to our medical system. You know, it is both a doctor and a patient issue. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten blasted because I wouldn't give patients antibiotics. You don't understand. My child has a fever and they have an exam tomorrow. I demand an antibiotic so they feel better. Boom, crushed on patient satisfaction scores. Boom, the hospital is like, what's up with that? You know, and then so the pressure comes from both sides. And then, of course, it is much easier for me or a doctor. And when you only have 10-minute visits, that is dictated by the hospital system. Please understand that doctors do not want to see patients in 10-minute increments. This is imposed upon doctors by the hospital system. And the doctor has 10 minutes with a waiting room full of patients. They're an hour behind. You have a cold. Then they're like, I think I hear something in the chest, or it does maybe look like sinus infection. Let me write you an antibiotic. You're satisfied. They're satisfied. Boom, you go, off you go. That was 5 minutes. Now the doctor can't catch up on his notes and all this stuff. I am not bashing doctors. I'm telling you, real life, this happened to me in my practice as I learned how to practice better medicine. But I would be so relieved when somebody would have strep throat, because that would be a 3-minute visit. Here's your antibiotics. Everyone is happy. And now I'm catching up with my day. Rather than, obviously, strep throat, we need antibiotics. But I'm saying, like, what's happening behind closed doors, we're all human. You don't practice medicine like a robot. And so there's a lot of factors that come into play. So it's very beneficial for both parents to say, I don't want an antibiotic. And it's beneficial for the physician to say, you shouldn't get any antibiotics. And then here's some plans. But just remember, when somebody comes in with an ear infection, it takes me 50 seconds to write an antibiotic, 15 minutes to explain all the natural, homeopathic, and options, and discuss all the obstacles and the parental fears regarding withholding antibiotics for about 48, 72 hours to see if the child actually needs antibiotics. I'm not making excuses. I'm just giving real life. And so that makes it very difficult. So there's many reasons why 80% of children's illnesses are viral. 80% of ear infections are viral. 80% of pneumonias are viral. Viral. But you hear pneumonia, you're like, need antibiotics. You hear ear infection, you're like, even the American Academy of Pediatrics specifically says in their recommendations that children over 6 months of age who have an ear infection should not get antibiotics for a minimum of 48 to 72 hours unless they are super sick. We do not follow that as a general rule in the world. And because the doctors are pressured for time, the parents are pressuring for antibiotics, and we're all just living too busy. The commonality in that must happen fast. The visit has to happen fast. The treatment symptom resolution has to be fast. We have no patience for letting the body do the healing. The body knows what to do. The body knows how to detox. The body knows how to take care of an ear infection. Look at your dog. They have an eczema patch. The puppy will sit there and lick it, and will make it go away. They don't need steroid creams and other stuff. Okay, my dog did need a modification, of course, because I'm an eczema doctor, so needed a diet modification. But the body knows how to heal itself, but it needs time, and it needs us to stop giving it medications out of fear. Fever is another huge one. Oh my gosh, my kid has a fever. Boom, Tylenol. As we learned in my master class, Tylenol strongly correlated to setting off eczema. But we give Tylenol like no big deal, and no one tells you, hey, listen, yeah, you can use Tylenol, but one dose can increase your chance of eczema by 30%.
Wow. Crazy. Mic drop. Okay, so here we go. I have to ask you because everybody wants to know. So talk as much or as little as you want about this. This is super highly controversial.
I know what's coming. I told you this.
Tell me about vaccines with kids. No judgment either way here, guys. We need to hear all sides, and we need to know and be informed about things. Okay. And so people want to know about like delayed, you can tell us your thoughts, or what do they do to us? As children, as tiny little kids, this has changed so much. The amount of vaccinations that have been given to kids since even I was a kid is a lot different. So where are we on that?
Got it. All right. So super controversial topic. Like you, and I will tell you that the reason that we're in this pickle and is because we can't talk about it. You cannot have a conversation at the dinner table, at your doctor's office, with your friends. It is easier to talk about religion and guns than it is to talk about vaccines. You're like,
Totally.
somebody brings up vaccine question, you're like, who wants to talk about guns? Anybody?
Yeah.
Let's talk about gun ownership. It's like,
I know.
So that is at the root cause of vaccines, that we can't have a conversation. We have the people on the side that pro vaccines, without vaccines, we're going to die. We have the people that anti-vaccines, that they're like, if you get a vaccine, you're going to die. The bad news, good news, we're all eventually going to die. But the people in the middle get crushed in the crossfire. And there's people that have questions. And here's the thing in medicine, there's no black and white. And everyone's trying to make the vaccines black and white. You don't do it or you do it. I think vaccines have a role, have a purpose. We have now made them such cookbook, and we're ignoring the side effects, and we're not doing personalized medicine. Back to my personalized medicine. We give the same schedule to every single person, no matter their family history, their current history, what they're struggling with, what their skin is looking like, how many ear infections they've had, because we're like, we must follow this cookbook so we can prevent errors. And when it comes to vaccines, both sides, the pro and anti, instead of listening for why that person has that opinion, we are listening to see what we can say so we can convince them otherwise. And not only that, but we've become hateful, mean, shameful. And, I don't tolerate that. And I was like, you know what? If I ask you your opinion about something, I expect you to just give, and I'm asking questions about what you have, and I'm telling you my opinion, and we're going to have a nice conversation. On Instagram, if a vaccine, something comes up, I actually have to put at the top that any rude comments will be deleted. I have no problem with people saying, hey, listen, but I don't understand X. Gosh, my child has suffered with this. Tell me more about why. Not a problem. But when it becomes like, you suck as a physician, you don't know what you're talking, that's what I mean by hate. Anyway, but when it comes to vaccines, so I am in the middle. And so I have no friends because both sides hate me. But we have to look at each child individually and see what their needs are. There are children who have, if they're covered in eczema, you need to think about vaccines very differently than a child that has no medical issues. What is the gut health? What is your stress? Where are you doing? Where are you going, right? Because if people are traveling the world, that's a very different than somebody that never leaves their house. And again, I'm not recommending you don't leave the house. Anyway, so it is very individualized. I do think we do too many at the same time. It needs to be spaced out. The birth vaccinations are, have their own issues. And again, we don't have enough time to go into all the things. I mean, there's reasons why this has started and there's reasons why it hasn't changed. I'm not making excuses, but sometimes I think my families really appreciate, okay, that makes sense of why we're doing what we're doing. Great. And thank you for giving us an alternative option, because there's not one way to do medicine. There's never one way. Okay, maybe if you have an appendix, you have to take the appendix out. But anyway, but generally speaking, there's more than one ways of doing something in medicine, and understanding why things are being done and what is good for your family and what are the risks involved. It's a risk benefit analysis of all vaccines, including the ones that are coming down the pike right now. Are you more risk for the disease and what does that look like for you? Or are you more at risk from the vaccine and what does that look for? And what risk tolerance do you have? Because again, it's easy to say, I don't want to do vaccines until your child dies from a vaccine preventable disease. And then you want blood and you're going to go after the doctor often that did not give you vaccines. I'm not even giving the names of physicians whose medical license has been revoked and they're under litigation in these kind of cases. And they were very open very open-minded to all kinds of possibilities, and the children suffer some adverse events. And of course, they went after the doctor. So it is very difficult. It is easy to sit and point fingers. It is easy when your medical license is not at stake, when your income, your family's well-being is not at stake. It's really easy to say that. On the other hand, parents are not being treated fairly. Because if you ask a question, hey, listen, so I'm wondering about the aluminum in this vaccine, boom, you're anti-vax.
Yeah,
You know,
I know, it's crazy.
right? So that's not fair either. So I like to put both sides of the story. I play both sides because anyway, so we understand the full story. And it's not fair that they're like, but I want to space them out. And listen, I was in the camp where I did not tolerate spacing out. So I did that, and now I'm on a different side. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're putting your child at risk for coming into the clinic because now they're exposed to all these other illnesses. And, you know, why not get them at the same time? I had all the standard replies, and I was like, oh my God, we should have them spaced out. There should not be that many given at the same time, because the immune system is very young, is very, it changes so fast, and we truly are not paying attention to the side effects.
Amen. All right.
So I think everyone should have a voice, should be informed choice. And the bottom line, the takeaway is you should be able to have a conversation with your provider. If you cannot have a conversation, you're in the wrong place. So whether you're pro, anti, in between, the starting point is being able to have a conversation, because when you're comfortable, you make better decisions than when you feel pressure. And when you're uncomfortable and you're angry and you don't feel heard, you're going to make worse decisions than when you're in a comfortable situation and can have an open conversation about all your fears, worries, and concerns.
Yes. So we have to learn how to be, I mean, at the end of the day, we as parents have to become, to educate ourselves, right? And to be our best advocates. And I love that you're, for sure, you guys, you got to find somebody who's going to support you no matter what your choices are. You are the parent. They need to hear you. And I want to empower you to find a provider that's going to help you do that. I wish that there was a wonderful link that I could give you all to find somebody within your area. But Anna Maria, do you work remotely, like with everybody? Or, I mean, I know you have courses. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but like, do you have any like links that you,
Right. So that's very difficult. It's very hard because a lot of people don't put that out there.
Right.
Because if you put that out there, the medical board will come after you.
Yeah.
So that's very difficult. It is a word of mouth kind of thing to find. In kind of situations. I have the online courses and stuff, but other than like when people want to follow, that's really difficult. You really need word of mouth in your area.
Yeah. So seek it out where you live, and just, just know that, again, medicine is not black and white, and that you can totally be an advocate for your health. And there are providers out there that will for sure listen to you and will nurture and respect your decisions for your children. All right. Just super, super, super fast. Fluoride and toothpaste.
No.
Yay or nay? No.
Nope.
And not needed. Not needed,
but you do need an alternative. The problem is we are seeing a rise in cavities in people that are not using fluoride. Yep. So the name on the street now is hydroxyapatite. This compound has been used in Japan for over 40 years with great success. It is now in the US. So find a toothpaste that has hydroxyapatite in it, because in head-to-head study with fluoride, it was as beneficial at preventing cavities.
Love it. Okay. All right. Multivitamins or supplements for toddlers. You said we're overusing them. This is the last question. Overuse,
multivitamins, boys and girls, I mean, throw them in the trash. They don't have enough. I have a YouTube video on this. They don't have enough of what you need. If you need vitamin D, then you get a vitamin D drop. If you need zinc, you get zinc. The problem is but my toddler is picky, so I give a multivitamin. Your toddler is picky, you're going to go full core press on working on his taste buds. Your teenager refuses food, you're going to go full core press atomic and stop buying the garbage that they're requiring. I don't care that they want goldfish or they want Doritos and their friends have Gatorade. I mean, if it's going to come down like, I want to smoke weed and drink vodka. I mean, you're not going to go out and buy weed and vodka because they want to. So a toddler doesn't get the choice of goldfish and juice boxes, just like, your teenager is not going to get the choice of weed or vodka. I mean, and I make it ridiculous, but sugar is 10 times, 6 times more addictive than cocaine.
Yeah.
But yet we're all like, oh, it's okay, they want sugar.
Well, it's culture. It's culture. They, it's every commercial. It's like why I turned the TV off right when I found out that I was pregnant. I'm not even watching the TV anymore. I'm not even going to let my brain get into my baby's brain that's not even born yet. Like, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be molded. Right. I'm going to go back to what I know is true. Sugar, oh my God, it's so addicting, you guys. Like, it's so addicting. And it just goes back to our environment. We have to tap into that and be super and ultra aware of our environment, which brings me to the very last thing here. We need to stay in touch with people who are going to remind us of these truths, like Dr. Anna Marie. And I would say myself too. I try to harp as much as I can. Guys, stay in touch. So how can we stay in touch with you, Dr. Anna Maria? What can you give us as far as resources? What do you have to offer as far as courses, websites? You said you have a YouTube. Tell us all the things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my passion is education. I love educating. I spend so much time creating YouTube videos, wrote a book on Instagram, and Instagram, YouTube are free. My book is available on Amazon. It's The Rule of 5, A Parent's Guide to Raising Healthy Kids in an Unhealthy World. And the reason it's called The Rule of 5 is because of the 5 ingredients, the rule. So then, and at the end of each chapter, which by the way, it's a bullet point book. So you can read it. I wrote it with a busy mom in mind, a mom with 4 children working a job, and she needs to read the book. And I was like, how would you read that? And again, bullet points, you get all the things you need. At the end of the chapter, you have one takeaway that you could implement that day that anyone can do. And then when you're ready for the next chapter, then you move to the next chapter. Most of my moms are able to read it in like a couple of days because it's that fast of a read. Anyway, and with great information. But that is a reference book at your fingertips that I tell you how to buy meat, how to buy eggs, how to deal with the snack attacks, how to deal with the breakfast, what to do for lunch, how to deal with your toothpaste and your bug spray and your sunscreen. I literally took everything I can think of from our lives from A to Z and made it in a format that you can get fast information quickly without you having to read 1,000 labels, 1,000 ingredients, Googling all night, because our jobs as parents has gone from loving our kids and reading with them at night to an MD degree, political science degree, nutrition, chemical engineering, because you don't know what's in any of your products. And I, go on and on. I'm like, we don't have time to hang out with our kids and play with them because we're so busy researching and trying to get our multiple degrees that apparently have to come with parenting. Anyway, so I've made your life a lot easier. Free information on Instagram at DRANA Maria Temple. YouTube video is the same number, same thing. I do have an online eczema course where I help, oh my gosh, we've helped hundreds of families take horrible skin to beautiful skin with full support, nutrition guidance, supplement guidance. So we take the guesswork out of what you're doing so you can just spend time loving your babies. And we do have an online baby course launching in a couple of months. So we're so pumped about that, where we're going to help families with immunizations and how to raise healthy, happy children. Again, taking the anxiety of being a parent because it's become too much. So we'd love to see you on various of the platforms. I'm trying to help as many people internationally as possible. Oh my gosh, we have people in our eczema course from New Zealand, from Australia, from the UK. Because it's the nice thing about being, online, we can help so many people, and then we create a group where everyone supports one another and speaks the same language. So you're no longer the weirdo, because I'm tired of being the weirdo, because then the abnormal has become normal, and the people that whole foods and drink clean water and send their kids outside in the sunshine are the weirdos.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so everybody needs to go and connect with Dr. Anna Maria. We'll have links. Okay, this is the question that I ask every single person, and I feel like you're going to have a really great answer because you practice and live this and breathe this every single day. What does living a holistic life mean to you?
It means that every day I get up, I have all the energy that I need to get through my day with positive attitude, that my children thrive, that they can run if they need to, they can bounce, jump, go to college, go to school, and there's nothing stopping them. There's no pain, there's no medicines, there's no coughing, that they can do all things. That my vision of a beautiful childhood and a beautiful family is that we have the energy and the reserve to just rely on good food, family time, sunshine, and good sleep. And don't forget to poop.
Love it. But yeah, we didn't even get into that. Okay. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being on. You are amazing. And we are all finished. You guys, I hope you loved it.
Thank you so much.